This video will show you how to add a database to a Visual Studio project. I'm going to create a new C# Windows Forms application, but the same procedure could be followed for different application types. I'm going to go to Project, Add Data Source, and you see there's several options for what kind of data source to add. And even after you choose the database, there's different choices for what type of database you can add. I'm going to add just a SQL database file. You can find a database file online. The AdventureWorks is a common sample database file for SQL you can download online. This is an important step here, though. You want to copy the database into your project. That way, when you move this project to a different computer, that database goes with it, and your connection will still work. This step is to choose which pieces of the database you want for your program to work with. That's the data set. It's something that you can conceptualize as being between your program and the database. Just going to bring in the pieces that you want to work with, because a large database might have a lot of tables in it that you don't need for your program, so there's no sense in tying them up with your program and slowing things down. So for this little program, I'll just in the little database, I'll choose all the tables. Now, when you're working with a database in your project, in the Server Explorer, you can expand the data connections, and you can see all the tables that are part of the database, and you can actually view the table data by right-clicking. Because a SQL database file is not like an Access database file. You can't just launch Access. You can just launch Access and see the data and work with it, but SQL, it's not quite so easy. But Visual Studio makes it possible to do some of those database things. But as far as getting the data into our actual program, we need to view our data sources, and you get a similar look of the elements that you've included in your data set. You can see all the fields. And if you just drag the icon for the table over to your form, it automatically creates a control called a data grid view. And that's basically just a table with all the data in it. I like to set the doc property to fill if the only thing on my form is a data grid view. So I'll do that. And notice in the system tray, it added 5 elements. It added the data set, which we already talked about, the members binding source, which is what connects the data grid view to the data, the table adapter, which is what displays the data in the table, and the binding navigator is how you navigate through the things at the top. So now our data is in our database, so we can navigate through it. We can add new data. But one thing I want to demonstrate to you is that when you're debugging an application in Visual Studio, when you add data to the database, it actually doesn't get saved the way you might expect. So when I add this data, and even if I hit save, when I restart the program, I won't see that new stuff. That is the expected behavior in Visual Studio, because they expect that you are debugging and just testing things and don't want to make actual changes to the database. That behavior can be changed, which I'll demonstrate in a different video. But for now, you can see that the data is back to the way it was.